Good morning. My name's Jason Hall. Coming here to share Mohawk Network story. Um, we are a tribally owned broadband service provider. Um, we operate on St. Regis Mohawk Tribe, which is part of the Mohawks of Akwesasne. As you can see here, we reside on, I don't know if it's obvious, but we reside on both sides of the border, the Canadian and US portion. We're also in Ontario and Quebec, so you know uh, that provides some interesting jurisdictional issues. Um, so, so just to show you an example of what one tribe has done to provide broadband for our people and members. So Mohawk Networks operates mainly on, or strictly on the, I shouldn't say strictly, but mainly on the U.S. portion of our reserve. This is due to when it was built, our funding was from external sources, and they're all from U.S. Grants and awards and stuff like that. So, about 2009 is when we started our broadband initiative. St. Regis Mohawk Tribe. Nice. So, got two clickers here. So, so yeah, started in 2009. We received two awards, one for our infrastructure and one for the digital skills and literacy aspect of bringing broadband to a reserve. Uh, so in 2010, so we received a $10.5 million award from the Broadband Infrastructure Program. This represents not the total funding needed to actually build the network. So there was a big commitment from the tribe as well to build this infrastructure. Uh, so we also have a Broadband Technology Opportunities Program Award. So this was for the digital skills and literacy aspect of the broadband initiative. Our project, we initially built 68 miles of fiber. So on territory, we went from dial-up, like T1 lines, to fiber to the home. So it was a good project. We also, during this time, so I was hired as one of the project managers during the initial project phase, and my main duties were building 5 public computer centers, managing the digital literacy, and then but I worked alongside the project teams that also did all the fiber and that stuff. So I've been involved with the broadband aspects of our tribe since 2011. I came in at 2011. So 2013, we established our own central office. So we own and operate our own network. We have tribal members. Like our entire staff is I shouldn't say entire, like 90% of our staff is tribal members that work and operate and run and maintain the fiber network. Part of the VTOP grant, I included I had this idea, like we had contingency funds that needed to be spent. So I said, well, let me get some video equipment and maybe stream local events or sports events or something to that aspect, and get some summer students and work towards providing live events and streaming throughout our community. So that started a ball rolling, and then eventually we actually met with somebody from your territory, Regan Jacobs. So she came down and helped us. developed this idea, and then it ended up turning into Akwesasne TV, which is like end up being like indigenous storytelling from our point of view, and so it was a it was a great thing that came out of the B-Top was to see that develop out of it, and now we have producers and content providers born out of that idea. So we eventually took the Akwesasne TV and made it part of our fiber network offering. So we do video through the fiber to the homes, and we included Akwesasne TV as one of the channels to our local residents. 2013, that's when the fiber home installs began. So I say we have 80% of eligible people, homes passed as subscribers. The other 20% that will probably either don't want it or it's a affordability issue. So most of that was from word of mouth, meeting with the community, getting signups, during that phase, and then going to the homes and installing. 2014, we completed the build and we started our operations. So initially, we were a open access network model. We finished the fiber build. We invited people to come operate, and nobody came. So it's still like so. Internet was like redlined around our territory from the American side. It's not that they couldn't build it there; it's just that they made decisions not to come on our territory, right? So that continued even after our fiber was up and operational. So we had one local uh, carrier that was doing fixed wireless. So we invited them to operate on the fiber network as a provider, and we also had one external provider, third party from different state who wanted to be, offer the services and run the billing and all that aspect and everything. So we did that in 2014. Um, I think after about a year or two, we realized that that model is not going to work. So that's when, the tribe decided to start running and operating it themselves. So let's see. So 2015, we actually transitioned to we instead of being a broadband department under the tribal government structure, we actually became a broadband department under the LLC structure, the for-profit Tuatahuni Corporation, which is the Section 17 holding company for the tribe's business holdings. So casinos under that structure, and we're under that structure, and a construction company and something else. So this is the managed their for-profit entities. Also, 2015, that's when Akwesasne TV started broadcasting on a local channel. So this was like the end of the project phase. We completed the build. We have homes installed. We're starting operations. We're hiring lots of people, developing our own people in these new broadband careers. So 2016, we're in business. 2017, we actually built a tower, and we started because we had to move our services and expand off our territory, to be sustainable. So because when you're operating on territory, you only have limited numbers of homes you passed and potential subscribers. So I think we are like capped out. In order for us to sustain operations, we need to expand our subscriber base. So we decided to move or establish a North Country Broadband, which was for off-territory sales. So what we would do is from our fiber network, we go through a middle mile partner and get to, I think we went like 2 hours south of us to a county um, that needed help as well with internet. So we do like a fiber to towers and do like a fixed wireless solution to customers 2 hours away. We also do like fixed wireless customers on surrounding our territory that are not necessarily uh, on native land. So we do offer fixed wireless solutions and fiber. 2017, our actually tribes started speaking on congressional testimony on challenges that we've seen and faced and other tribes are facing. About this time, and the cost of running broadband is substantial. So um, we started shared services to reduce some of these operational costs. And what that means is so we have a casino on territory that has 24/7 operations. So we started shared services with them to do like we use some of their IT services, we use HR services, we use financial and accounting services with them. So this allows us to reduce our staff, lower our burden and on personnel, and it also brings money back into a another organization, tribal organization entity. So it worked out for both of us. So because they're 24/7, like we can use their help desk, IT help desk for our after hour support and stuff like that. So this is ways we came up with to manage some of our challenges and to work through those and make it work for us. 2019, we saw a major issue with all of our CPE equipment, GPON issues. So we had to replace 70% of our ONTs, which was approximately 900 ONTs. So that was a big hit to our operations. So I mean, it's stuff that's unknown at the time, but as you're working and operating, you may run into some of these issues, after a couple of years. So 2020, COVID, 2019 COVID, household disaster relief. So we paid, we had the 6 months of paid internet for all of our territory. So they didn't have to think about the bills for a little while. Um, We retained 100% of our employees during this time, which was, this is about the time where broadband services became from a luxury to almost a necessity, right? So we saw the change and we saw the demand on the network spike up too. So during this time, because we saw that increase, we had to actually replace our whole core network to meet these demands and growth. So at that time, we rebuilt our whole core and fortified our network to meet those demands of our new environment and world, I guess. Um, because we have limited number of homes we pass, and we need to figure out ways to be sustainable. So we also received a certification in it's called 8A certification. So what that does is allow us to work in federal contracting space in the United States and apply for contracts with the government and stuff and run them through our entity. It's given us other avenues for revenue to be sustainable. Um, Also, part of that initiative is like a hub zone certification, which is more for the U.S., but it's not really a thing in the Canadian side. But I'm sure they have similar structures over here. Um, Federal contract and development. So our first sole source award awarded in 2022, which was I guess it's pretty quick for, for operating in that space. We do some advocacy, and our general manager, Allison Mitchell, sits on various federal boards and stuff like that. And so National Communications Task Force, Native American Contractors Association, and she's involved in, various aspects throughout Indian country and tribal broadband. Uh, 2023, we received a TBCP grant award. So, which this was, we applied for 9 million, we got 500,000. So, big difference, right? So, you can't really do the same thing you planned in an original application, with they call it equitable distribution amount. So, that was, call it something else. But but what we did with this amount was, I'm actually closing that award this month. We do on our tower, we added equipment for private LTE connections, and take advantage of the 2.5 gigahertz spectrum that we were awarded, and to overlay our area with we have fiber on our territory. Also, overlaid it with some fixed wireless, and then only thing I'm not doing yet is the mobility part. So with cell service and that, so that's a whole nother adventure. So we didn't get to that aspect yet, but really we're overlaying our territory with multiple solutions, and trying to get a total broadband solution in place. Uh, Also, along this time, 2023, we hosted a tribal broadband boot camp. So, that we had other tribes come to our territory, and then work with an external organization to learn about broadband, tribal broadband awareness, the aspects of creating network and operations on your territory. So multiple tribes come to attend these boot camps. It's really a powerful resource throughout our territory, and open to all tribes. They hold various boot camps throughout the year, so you should look into that if you're interested in learning more about broadband. Um, so we started a joint venture with our federal contracting with another company out in Indianapolis. So that was established in 2023 as well. Um, we also had multiple awards that were not, we've that were not, or multiple applications that were not awarded to us, and that was with the Reconnect program. And so a lot of that was due to mapping and issues beyond our control around our territory. So their definition of tribal land and our definition were different, and this affected the scoring of the application. And so this is something that like Mohawk Networks itself couldn't resolve, but it'd have to be like a nation to nation to nation type thing, where we lobby with the USDA to get that restructured, or the FCC, whoever is defining our territory and what it looks like, and how that affects scoring on our applications. So we're always looking for external funding and sources to supplement our operations, and to help us be sustainable. Uh, 2024, we're also doing a lot of digital inclusion and workforce development. So we established these tribal broadband careers. We have people in place. Most of our employees been there for years. We need to develop more people to replace the current people. So that's that's something that's in always on our minds and in development, and it's one of our initiatives, for our operations in Mohawk Networks. Advocacy, we participate in various events like this, right? So we want to be part of tribal broadband solutions, tribal broadband awareness, and we can't do that sitting at home. So, you know, we join in the conversation when we can, where we can. So I started with a blank area. So this is our fiber network now, and you can see the purple represents all our fiber connections on territory. Um, and we're currently, our territory's got some land back, so that image is going to change. And so is our service area. So we're going to be expanding this, and then we're working with local partners, local counties, and their projects to develop a resilient network operations center. We're going to be building another network operations building. We're going to be expanding some of the fiber between the buildings, creating resilient paths for this stuff, and just making our network stronger. And we're also going from, because we've been operating since 2009, we're going from our GPON technology to XGS-PON. So we'll be, offering 10 gigabit symmetrical to the premise. So that's coming this year. So I actually just purchased the equipment for that. So I'm just going to be installing that stuff soon. And then we'll be, beginning those operations and making that available to our customers. Some of our employees. So we also have like a structured cabling and structured cabling, surveillance and security, and other services on territory. And a lot of this stuff is farmed out to companies, off territory. So we brought some of that stuff back on territory, and we offer these services for our local infrastructure, our local governments, our local businesses. You see here's a image of our operations center, and then image of our field operations manager, Colby, doing the work. And we're not a huge team, but but we do what we can with what we have. So as most people do, you see a lot of these people in this picture have two or three job titles. That's it. So that's our story. I mean, if you want to learn more, just come see me. Just showing you an example of what One Tribe did and to build broadband and bring it to their people. Okay? Thank you.